So now I'll hand over to Ole Andre, who is going to show you the sales order application.
Before we start, I will introduce the application that we're going to create. So we're going to create the application from scratch. So I'd like to present the application we're going to do now for the next 40 minutes. We try to increase the level of this development, so it's going to be a productive version of an application. So it's a small order search where you can select the sales organizations, you can search for a customer, you will get the customer list, you can press on the customer, get the order list, we can go into the order and see details. So let's start developing this application. So everything I do in Neptune, it will be connected to a transport request, so you can transport through the test and productive environment. You can select the desired package, or just use a local object now. We use the SAP UI5 framework, so that's the first thing you need to do when you create a new application. We're going to develop a mobile application. I will set the language to English so you can see English language instead of the Norwegian. For the UI5 you have the blue crystal theme, which looks the same as Fiori, and also it's possible in Neptune to import your own themes from the SAP theme designer. Just give it a description. And the application class is where you do all the ABAP coding. For this webinar, I have the application class ready. I will go through it so you can see the ABAP code behind it. I will recommend all SAP UI5 applications to be stateless. The stateful coding will keep the session in memory. Having stateless applications will give you a possibility to have 10,000s of users without using too much memory and CPU on the SAP server. So I have selected the libraries, so I'm ready to start developing. On the left side you have all the libraries that I have selected. We're going to make an SAP UI5 mobile application. So I start by the app component. I had some pages, so I will create all the pages now. That's the start page, the menu page. You can also give it a title. This is the attribute. You create the next page, which is the search page. And we create the page for a customer list. Create the next page for the order list. And then the last page, which is the order detail. When you have changed your code, you need to activate for the changes to be active. To preview the applications, you have two possibilities. You have preview in wrapper. This tool will give you the possibility to select your desired device, smartphone, tablet, different operating systems, and also different orientations, which will give you a good indication on the UI layout. When I do development, I recommend this kind of setup. Now I have the total control. I can see if there are some syntax errors, and it's still the mobile or a tablet size of it. Okay, the start page starts with a tile, so I will use a standard tile. Set some properties. We can place an icon on it. If you want to know the icon names, you can click on the help button and you will see all the embedded icons from SAP UI5. I will use the sales order icon, and this is the syntax for declaring an embedded icon from SAP. Title, sales order. In Neptune, I think we have reduced the usage of, or the need for JavaScript by 95%. There are some places you need to enter actually UI5 methods, and that's for the navigation, which we are going to do. We're going to click on the sales order tile, and then something needs to happen. On the attribute, we have some events. In this case, it's the press event. I will type in the app, which is the name of the app component, and the navigation to, and then the next page. Remember, this is case sensitive. This is only a one-line JavaScript. If you click on the script editor, you will be able to edit as much as possible the JavaScript code lines, and using the right click you will have a JavaScript helper library. For instance, SAP UI5, we have the navigation, so you can see the structure on how to navigate between pages. So that's app to next page. You can also change the transition. You can back to page or go back to the previous page. We only need that for this example. So now I have one tile. I can click on it and go to the next page. The reason for why I'm having the console up is I can now use the methods from the SAP UI5. We can go back again. In kind of your launchpad, you have more like dynamic tiles where more centered. To achieve that, you need to use the tile container. And put the tiles as child to the tile container. And you need to set the screen so the SAP UI5 can render it. This how to disable the scrolling functionality. For the next page, we also need a footer so we can navigate back again. And that's the bar component. So I'm dragging it as a child to the page search. Giving it a name. And some of the components that we have in Neptune, we need to set the parent position. Like the bar component can be a content in your screen. It could be a custom header. It could be a subheader. And now in this case, we're going to use it as a footer. Then I need to place a content on it. The position for the content is 3 possible options. That's the left, middle, and right. So let's put the navigation button on the left side. We place a button. So we have an event, but back search. And place an icon on it. Navigation back. And the event is app, which is the name of the app object, and then the navigation back. I'm going to need this footer on all pages, so I'm using my keyboard, Control-C, next one, and paste it into the next page. In an SAP UI5 application, you need to have unique names. As you can see, our syntax check will tell you if you don't have any unique names. And I now have footer search and back search, so I can use a find and replace function. This is for us lazy coders. I will just replace the name search to customer list, and now the syntax check is okay. So I repeat that for the next following pages. So now I have the navigation back on all pages. So I activate, refresh my application. Now we can see the tiles are centered or in the middle of the screen. Having multiple tiles will also provide you with a scroll to left and right. So we can click on the sales order. We have the search, which is empty at the moment, and we can navigate back again. So far, a very small application. In the search, I need a form so I can retrieve data and send that back to SAP when I do the searching. I really like the component, which is the simple form. A lot of these components are also responsive. So I give it a name, search. What I'm doing now is also binding to data from the backend, the application class. I will bind it to a structure that I have made ready. And I need to initialize some fields. So that's init search. I will show you that in the application class. All components in Neptune that you bind will not trigger the retrieval of data from SAP. That needs to be set by you as a developer. You can do that by using the set init load, which I'm going to use now, which is online. So when my application starts, this request will be sent back to SAP. The structure of components beneath the simple form is more like the WebDyn Pro. You have the label, you have the input field. We also have a laser function called wizard that I can insert the fields that you have in that structure. For this example, I don't need the counter or the distribution channel. These are the fields I need. I will activate. And let's take a look at the application. Now we can see I have a label, name 1. That's the match code search. I have the sales organization. It's not very good in productive environment to enter the sales organization manually. So let's change that component to a select instead. I bind it to an internal table for the sales organization. I set the value field for the sales organization key and then the text. And I can also show the keyword. That's up to you. Go to the attribute. I also like to bind data. So on a select component is a selected key. I bind it to a field in our structure, sales organization. If you look at the class builder, you can see that the class interface uses our Neptune interface that provides you with 6 different methods. In a UI5 framework, it's the handle on AJAX. All communication between the device and SAP is AJAX with JSON format. So go into the method. We had on the form, we had AJAX ID called init search. When I go into the method, you can see I'm setting some default values, but also getting the data to the select component. we have been very focused on having the best performance-wise. So if I go to the Ajax ID init search, I have a button on the right side, which means that in one request back to SAP, I can also retrieve multiple objects. So I would also like to retrieve the sales organization. So let's activate and look at the application. And now we can see the sales organization are filled in. The labels are not positioned very good, so let's go and make it in the simple form, editable, true, and that will align the input fields. I can change the text. So the labels are much better. Sales organization. Okay, let's go to the next page. That's a customer list that you're going to retrieve when we do the search. So let's build up the list first. To present list on a mobile device, you have a list component, or you can also use the new table component. Table components are really powerful with a lot of responsive setup. So using the table, giving it name, tab customer, I'm binding the table to the internal table we have, IT customer. These are the fields in that internal table. I need to set an Ajax ID so my server knows what kind of request that's coming into the server, into the application class. We also have on the table component, we also have a wizard. So now I can do the insert fields in display mode. And it will create the structure of how a table component would like to have it. That's the columns. This is the item, where you also have the events. And there you have the display, what you're going to present to the user. All the components have a help button. Please use that if you are not sure how to use the component. And this will give you a picture from the designer in which context and how to structure it. And some preview of it. I see that I have more fields that I would like to present, so I'm just deleting some of them. Now I'm just pressing delete, and in my settings I have set no message on delete objects. So I don't need a pop-up each time I press delete on an object. What we are going to do now is to create a new search button. So I'm placing that on the right side, putting a button beneath it. When I do the search, we will start, so I try to explain it first. Page. That's the navigation. I can search, and we can also enter a text for it. Search. Start the sales order application. This is the search screen. I can do the search. Now I go to the next page, but I don't retrieve any data at the moment. So I would like to explain the data retrieval from Neptune. All components that we bind to a model, they all get a pre-made JavaScript function called getOnline, and then the object name. Also with a possibility to send some value into the application class. In the retrieve and send option, we can also, from the device, specify which data we are going to send back to SAP, back to the application class. In our case now, we're going to send the form, the search form, back to SAP, do the processing, and retrieve data. when you retrieve the data on the device, you have two events which are really important. That's the AJAX success and AJAX error. I will try to use them now so you can understand why. On the search button, I don't want to navigate to the next page because I don't have the data at the moment. I would like, first of all, to show the user that the application is doing something. I'm using the app and set busy. Find that a very handful or very nice component to use, setting it to true. Then I would like to get data. I'm using the get online function and then the name of the customer table, tab customer. When I'm triggering this JavaScript function, it will send a request to SAP. So let's go to the tab customer with that AJAX ID. And if I go to the right button, you have the possibility to specify which data that I'm going to send back to SAP. That's the form search. That's our input form. If you see the application class, that's the method get customer list. Go into the method. You can see I'm using the field, search field in that structure. So you don't need to do anything to get the data into your structure. You don't need to use any methods or functions. These are mapped when you retrieve the data in the application class. I'm using a match code table just to speed up the performance. Then I'm getting the data and all the data into an internal table, IT customer. One important thing about all the data that you use in the Neptune Application Designer is that the visibility needs to be set to public. And you can use it in the designer, you can bind it, and the server can also reach the data. So let's try and see how the application looks. Sales order. I can enter some search. Now I see I forgot to enter in the AJAX success because I have done the search. You can see on the get customer list, I have retrieved data. So on the tab customer, we have an event called AJAX success. And this is where I would like, when I get the data from SAP, we would like to turn off the busy indicator. And this is the time where I really want to do the navigation. Turning off the busy indicator and then do the navigation. If an error occurs, I will also like to turn off the busy indicator when AJAX error happens. So starting the application, go to the search page, search, and now I get data and navigate to the same page. Okay, let's make this list a bit better. Like leading zeros, trying to make this a responsive page. First of all, the column, this is the header. This is where you have the text. We can enter the size, the width of it. I can go to name. I would change the text. And I would like that to be dynamic, so I don't enter any width on it. On the city, I enter a fixed size. I would change that one. And on the postal code or zip, we enter fixed size. What is really cool about this is some of the fields will not fit when you have a smartphone. That's a much smaller screen. So all the column has a possibility to set minimum screen width. So I will say that these fields will only be displayed when I have tablet or larger screens. Let's activate and see what's happening. As you can see now, it's more better format regarding the sizes. And if I change my screen resolution, you will see that now I'm using the smartphone layout. And I will only display the kind of data that you would like to present on a smartphone. To remove the leading zeros, let's go to the data. These are the data that we present in the table. We have on the attribute, we have something called a formatter. This is the UI5 formatter. So let's go to a lot of pre-made formatters, like remove leading zeros. If you would like to develop your own formatter, you have the possibility to do so. Go for remove leading zero now. So starting the application again, do the search, and the leading zero are removed. So far, next step, that's when I click on a customer, I would like to see beneath the order list. So let's create the order list. And to cheat a bit, I have the order list ready. So I'm just copying it. You can use the Control-C and copy components from other applications. It needs to be in the same system, of course. So I'm using a table, again, with the columns. Beneath I have not only used the text component, but also used an object number, where you can have the number and a number unit. And also to get, when you saw the application, that the sales order application, you can see that the delivery status was green or red. So for a status, I'm using the status from SAP. I combine it with a formatter. So yes, this is some JavaScript. That's from SAP. That's the not started. This is begun, and this is a completed status. And then I'm changing the state. That's changing the color of that field. Now, when I press on the customer, I would like to trigger this request back to SAP. So I need to go on the item, the column list item. This is where I have the press event. I need to set the type to navigation or active to be able to trigger the event press. This is very useful to use the code snippet that we have, the JavaScript helpers. So list table, that's what I'm using right now. I would like to have the selected row, and you can read what you're going to replace. So from that list, I would like to use the customer number. And I would like to get online tab order. In this scenario, I'm going to send data to the application class in the Ajax value. I would like to have both the customer number, but also I would like to have the sales organization. Remember, the application class is stateless, so it doesn't remember anything. So a bit small JavaScript. And I will show why in the application class. What I'm doing right now is using the methods from UI5. There's a lot of ways to get data in Neptune, but this is one way. Get selected key. I will show you why in form search record. That's from the page search. This is the component. That's the name of it. And that component has some methods. And the selected key is where we have bind the sales organization. Looking into the application class, you can see the get order list. That's the next Ajax ID we're going to use. The method get order list also passes the Ajax value into the methods. The Ajax value is the same, like I go back to the press. This is the Ajax value that we are passing to the application class. In the order list, I'm splitting the Ajax value into the customer number and sales organization. That's how you can pass multiple parameters in one string field. Using the BAPI sales order get list and into a public internal table called IT order. So on the tab order, this is the Ajax ID. When I retrieve the data to the order, I have already pre-made the Ajax success. I will turn off the busy indicator and we will navigate to the order list. So it's the same flow that we had. Pressing the item, I will get the customer number, concatenate with the sales organization. I can put on the busy indicator and triggering the order tab. Let's see if everything is okay. Sales order, I will press on the search, get the customer list. I can press on customer and I will get the order list. On the right side we have the status field where I use the for method to set different states on it. If I go to someone with more, it's really good for the UI experience from the user that you can see green, red for the statuses. Really easy to achieve. This list is also responsive. You can see that I'm reducing the fields and also some fields are now pop-in called in, I will show how. If I go to the short text, which is a very large one, I have set the minimum screen resolution and I enter the true for the demand pop-in, and I can set two different options for the pop-in, that will be block or inline. Even if you have smaller screen, you can still present a lot of data, but then the table will list it like the description field with a pop-in. Now let's take the next one. That's the order detail. So let's go to the order detail page. I need some binding, so I bind the order detail page. And I will bind that to the structure of order header. I will use an Ajax ID, and let's get order detail. I can use an object header, is very nice. Header order. We'll bind some attributes, like the title we can bind to, let's go to the order, use the document number. Intro we can call the document number, we can bind to order amount with a unit for currency. So let's go, when I click on an order line, I will use the press event. In this case, I'm getting the sales order document number. I'm setting the busy indicator, and now I'm using get online to the page order detail, passing the order number. In the application class, this is the get order detail. I'm also using the Ajax value in this case. Go into the method. You can see I'm using Bapis get detail list, where I'm using the Ajax value for the document number. I will retrieve the header data. In this case, I have pushed the header data into a structure that I just bind to the page. And we can also retrieve the sales order items. So I will activate and test the application. Click on the customer, reading the order list. I can click on order list to get detail. Now I just forgot the Ajax success event again. So now you really see how important that is. Turn off the busy indicator. And then navigate to page order detail. Remember, this is still case sensitive. And also turn off the busy indicator on the error. So do it again. Sales order, searching the customers, clicking on a customer to get the order list, and now clicking on an order to get the details. We have only mapped the header at the moment, so let's put some more data in it. You can just see that the navigation is working and the speed is excellent. We would like to have a form with more header data and order items. I will copy that from the example page, copy the simple form. Simple form has some fields. I will disable that so you can understand how that's going to be used. And I also like the order items. And the order items is a table with columns and input the fields that you're going to display. What is now important is when I'm triggering the page order detail, in SAP I'm using one request getting all the data. So it means I also need to retrieve the order items data in the same request. So you don't need to trigger several requests to get data to multiple components. You just use the almost a customizing to retrieve multiple components. Go back again. Search. Now it looks very nice with some header data and items. The simple form is a responsive component. One of the cool thing is that you can use a simple form title. The simple form title will divide the form into sections. So now I will enable the simple form title again. So right now we have 4 fields in a vertical position. Now you can see that I used the simple form title to divide the area into 2. And this is responsive component, so when I have larger screen it will change the labels And when I have smaller screen, it will put all the fields beneath each other again. So creating mobile applications now for both the smartphones and tablets, it's not a problem. The UI5 provides you with a lot of responsive components, and you can also use this application on a desktop without any problem. And on the desktop you can provide even more fields if you would like. So we managed to develop the whole application as we promised. Before we start on the Q&A, I would like to show some of the new features coming in the support package 3. That will be available in the beginning of June. We have, for instance, totally changed the app cache configuration. So now it's a configuration instead of embedded into the application. So we will do the settings for the server, app cache, component, application, passcode application, and start application. And these settings will be used for the preview, but also for the export. So more info will come on this. In the designer, we have the preview in the browser. We have preview in wrapper. But now we also have preview sidebar. Now we find the Internet Explorer good enough to present the application in the right format. And the cool thing about it is when I do some changes and activate, the preview sidebar will be updated with a new UI. It requires that you have Internet Explorer 9 or higher on your PC. Developing the select, also a huge step forward. That's a select component. We just misuse that at the moment. We now enhance the functionality, so you don't only need to get data from the application class. You can bind it directly to a database table. You don't require any coding for this. You can get the country key and the country name. So that will require no coding in the application class. You can still use them with caching, how to enable the load, and they will get online also. And you can use a filter. If you don't want all the countries, in this case, you can narrow down by using a filter. So we'll only use Australia, for instance. And you can also use the domain value range for that. So that's some of the feature coming out in the beginning of June.
Yeah, we can also mention that we will have a new UI5 version as well. So that's perhaps the biggest change, that we will be on the newest UI5 version then. So it's coming out in June. So I think I have answered all of the questions. While Ole André was busy coding the application, I managed to answer it. I promised to show the language translation. I had some questions about that. And of course, the text that you put into the designer, that's on the default language. But in the builder, we have, so if you go to the application builder,
You need a project.
Yep.
It's the wrong system. Let's go to the right one. The project is to connect different applications together. In this case, it's actually the Neptune client that you see on our web page with all the applications. On the Translate SAP UI5, you will select your desired language. Let's go for German. You update, and I will get all the attribute that's translatable. And you translate on the right side. If I go to the bottom, you can see that we have started some of the translation. So it's more like an Excel view of all the components, all the attributes. It's pretty cool because you can also change the date format if you would like to have different date presentation in German and Norwegian or English. So it's a very powerful tool. And the language is based on your browser or on your user parameter ID. But you also introduced in the next version that you can override by using the normal language, SAP language. That will override everything.
Yeah, and we had a few more questions at the end here. One was if you can use Neptune application in the Fiori Launchpad, and the answer is yes. You can add a Neptune application into the Fiori Launchpad. Another question was using the camera, and that is easily done, but with the export to PhoneGap functionality. So when you create a hybrid application with our export, just quickly show the export. So export to PhoneGap, this will change in the next version when we have the app cache. I could show it running. So it's a lot easier, and as you can see on the start, you will just create a directory where you want your source files. You can use the UI5 app cache, which will both give you the possibility to connect to SMP, use Mukana, have your applications automatically downloaded into your app, and that's perhaps the most important feature. That means that when you put the transport in production in your SAP system, it will automatically be updated on all devices. And if we look at the plugins, you can see that you can use camera and all the APIs that are there, and in addition, third-party plugins like a barcode scanner. And if you go to Google Play or the Apple App Store, you can download an app called Neptune Client. You can also connect this to your own system, but by default, the preferences is set to demo mode, and then you can actually test out in the inventory count demo there. You can see the barcode scanner, which is fairly good. Of course, on more ruggedized devices, or if you're working in the warehouse, you would rather have a Bluetooth scanner or a proper device with a real scanner. But for simple barcode reading or QR code reading, it's useful.
And the client that we have available for Apple and Android will also be available for Windows 8 in a short time from the marketplace. Means that you can go using the Neptune client from your Windows 8. This is in demo mode, and you can also change the settings. So go to the settings, you can override the demo mode and set your SAP server, your client, and the preferred start application, and then you can use it connected to your SAP system with Neptune.
Yeah, we're getting some more questions here. One was if we support Afaria and Mukana, and the answer is yes, you can, and you can also have a trial version of the new SAP Secure solution. Then after you created the PhoneGap apps like the IPA file, APK file, you can upload it to Mukana, secure it by encryption, passcode, and then you can just press the enable Mukana on our export, and then Mukana will distribute it through Afaria. So yes. Then it was a question about the JavaScript helper. The JavaScript helper, it is a bit limited by the SAP GUI. What I personally do is that I'll use either I will in the header set a Dropbox JavaScript file, for instance, and use Sublime Text or whatever I want, or I will just simply code it in the console of Chrome and then just paste it back in. But we do have all of the JavaScript helpers for especially ABAP developers that are fairly new to JavaScript, and the amount of JavaScript you need is small, and it is basically just UI5 components. And the reason why we have them there is to keep the framework as open as possible. So we don't want to close it down to give everyone the possibilities from their JavaScript skills. Yes, we also have a question about the push notification, and the push notification of SMP is also supported. We have also created in the Neptune server a table that when you onboard a device and have added the push plugins, it will both send the right API call to the SMP 3.0, but also connect the user to that device ID in the backend. So it's very, and we have reports or function modules that will send it out to SMP. So it's you can easily connect a workflow, for instance. If you previously sent mail or SMS to people, it's very easy to hook up the Neptune solution and send push notifications to SMP, and then it will send it to the correct device.
And yes, the recording will be available offline, so we will check the quality after the session and then put it on the website.
If the quality is okay.
Yeah, that's...
Yeah. And I would like to mention, we will answer the questions that we didn't have time to answer. We will answer them by email. And I wish to remind you that next week there is a new webinar where we go through the offline capabilities of Neptune. In the last support package, we introduced a very powerful caching and storage of the models, UI5 models, in either the local cache or in the web SQL database. And with a plugin, you can also add a complete SQLite database that gives you 2 terabytes of offline data. And it's very easy compared to other frameworks, and extremely fast for the end user as well.
Yeah, we will send you the URL to the demo application that we just created, so it's publicly available, so that's not a problem.
Yeah, we have run certification courses, and we will continue to have online trainings, and we have gotten quite a few also external certified trainers that are currently running around and setting it up. So if you send an email to info@neptunesoftware.com, we can try to see who's in your area.
Yeah, the next scheduled classroom training will be in Hamburg in June. Dates are not set, but I guess it's going to be in the middle of June.
Okay, then we will answer the rest of the questions by email, and I hope you got something out of it. There are also tutorials on our support page where there's a good starting point with create your first UI5 application. There should be frequent asked questions there and documentation for most of the UI5 elements. And that's maybe something that we didn't mention, but on each element you have a helper class. I don't know if you went through that. But there's a help button on every controller from UI5, and it will take you into our documentation with screenshots, etc. So it's a very good thing to check out if you wonder how to use a UI5 component together with Neptune. Okay, thanks a lot, and hope to see a lot of you next Thursday. Bye-bye.